Hi everybody, thanks for joining. Hi everybody who is watching us through the live stream. My name is William Bailey. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bolero Music. Bolero is a platform through which you can actually build up your own record label. And today, as you know, SCC is a great place to learn new stuff, learn new insights. So I'll do my best to share valuable insights with you. So I wanted to talk about a specific topic, something that we've been working on lately at Bolero, which is making music catalogs liquid. So we'll see what it means and why we are leveraging actually Web3 to do so. So it's my third year in a row here at CC, so I'm pretty glad to be part of the community, to spend a lot of time with you guys. I think that it's the best place to actually take a deep breath and analyze where we're at as a community, as an ecosystem, but also to understand where the state of the art is. So this year, like last year, I was talking about crypto adoption and how music was an interesting field to actually achieve mass adoption. This year, it's rather about music IP and what actually can we put inside NFTs and what are like the basics and the specificities of music IP. So what is music IP? It's basically the underlying intellectual property of any record or any song that you can listen to. So let's take a few examples. This record is it's the latest album of CZA, which is called SOS. And as any kind of record, there are several stakeholders involved behind the record. And they are involved before the production, during the production, and after production. So for instance, if we take this record, there are three major entities behind the record. There is Top Dog Entertainment, there is RCA, which is the record label, and there is Universal Music Publishing Group, which is the editor, the publisher. Let's take another example, much more older, but a classic. Abbey Road from the Beatles. Back at a time, so 20th century, and the first step of the global music industry, even at the time, there were several stakeholders. So if you look at Abbey Road, there are Apple Records, Paul McCartney, and EMI, which is the record label. Let's take a last example, much more recent. This is the latest album of Metro Boomin, which is called Heroes and Villains. Behind these records, there are another time, three different stakeholders. There is Shamrock Capital, Luminati Worldwide, and Republic Records, which is the record label. So why involving so many stakeholders, and why, and actually, what happens regarding music IP, based on your involvement, based on your action, based on your expertise? What do you get actually when you are involved behind a record production? You get IP. So this is a pretty nice, draw to actually understand how this works and how music IP is actually split between the stakeholders. So imagine a vinyl. There are two sides. It's the same for music IP. Side A, we've got what we call the master recording. This is the IP that actually protects the MP3 file. It protects the performance. So it's the kind of finalized product of the record. On the side B, we have what we called the publishing part. And this sort of IP is actually protecting the lyrics, the composition. Keep this in mind. The thing is, why did we create actually two kinds of music IP? It's simply because these are not the same revenue sources. So each music IP side has a specific revenue source. For the master recording, it's all about the final product consumption. So it will be streaming, downloads, it will be synchronization contracts, which mean placing the song inside movies, TV shows, and advertising. And regarding the publishing, it's all about the consumption of the lyrics of the composition. So it will be public feature, it will be radio, it will be like, imagine when you get into a nightclub, you're basically getting into the nightclub for the music. Okay, let's say that. The thing is, the nightclubs have to actually pay for playing music inside their place. So when you own this IP, you will basically receive a share of those revenues. And when you own master recording, you will receive a share of these revenues. And at Bolero, we thought like, what if we let millions of listeners get a stake in the music they are streaming on the daily? Like, why do the music fans or people who are just interested in music couldn't have a share into this IP? And like, if we do so, maybe this could resolve a lot of issues inside the music industry, because it's a little bit shady. Not everybody knows how it works. But if we make it liquid, public, and open to anybody, accessible, maybe we could create a new music industry. And the thing, because I know that people love the figures here, we could actually unlock a 38.3 billion music IP market. So why such a figure, and how is it possible that it's worth like dozens of billions? Simply because artists, producers, composers are seated on their IP. They have no places to trade it on a daily basis, and beyond this, they don't have a place where they can monetize it and keep control over it. So maybe with Web3, and maybe by embedding music IP inside Web3 assets, we could actually deliver liquidity to the owners and keep control to them. So after several months of research and actually experimentations, we found at Bolero that we could actually use 3 parts of the IP that I've introduced you. As you can see, the songwriter share is actually missing because you cannot sell the songwriter share. It's part of the moral IP. But regarding the 3 other parts, you can totally fractionalize those shares and embed it into NFTs. So this is what we did, and we were like, we could actually reach out to each kind of stakeholder, and maybe at the end, we will have, I don't know, maybe 100% shares, 100% IP of a specific record on Bolero, but even if, the manager who maybe owns 20% of a record, if he sells, then the record is decentralized. So we launched ourselves in a mission which was decentralizing music catalogs and records. And to do so, because as you know, if we want to reach mass adoption, we gotta put Web3 in the background, in the backstage. We've called this new kind of token the song shares. So how did we do that? It's pretty simple. We have 3 specific components behind this tech. So first of all, the classic ERC 721 standard. So it's what makes an NFT, and this is how we make sure there is a limited supply on the market and that 1 share is equal to 1 specific share. Second component is the payment splitter. As you've seen, there are many stakeholders behind every record. So we were like, how do we make sure that the right stakeholder is paid at the right time, and how do we make sure that through the secondary market, if the record is traded, if the song share is traded, that the right people will get paid? Because it's also something interesting for the artist. Maybe you give away a piece of your IP, but at the end, maybe that the secondary market commissions that you will get will actually compensate what you've been giving away. So this is the second component, and the third one, which is really important, is non-custodial. We didn't want to actually reproduce some centralized model and, make your asset depends of Bolero's health. So we made sure that each IP share was actually really embedded into NFTs, and that even if Bolero disappeared tomorrow, and make sure it will never happen, but if we disappear tomorrow, you will still own your IP and you will still be entitled to the advantages that come with it. So how does it work actually in the front end, regarding the user journey? It's pretty simple. An artist or producer comes to us, or we talk with him or her. He decides to sell a piece of a record. First thing we do is actually make the song valuation. So we take the past revenues, and it's pretty much something really classic, like valuating a company. We take the past revenues, we project it in the futures, and then we are able to define a valuation in USD. We provide this valuation to the artist or the producer, and then he or she decides how much IP they want to sell on the platform. Once they have decided this, we make sure that the supply is actually fair. So we make sure that the supply is actually a little bit low, so not too many shares, and the purchasing price, so the price tag, is actually accessible. Because our vision is millions of listeners owning records. So to do so, we gotta make sure that each NFT is actually affordable based on your purchasing power. So most of the time, our shares are priced around $20 to $80. So that if you wanna invest $1,000, you can do so, but if you only have $20 to invest, you can do as well. Once you have actually bought your song shares, you have two actions that you can perform. Either you hold it, it's your treasure, you love this record, and actually the simple fact of listening to the song and feeling like I've got ownership, and beyond this I can actually earn money. If it's satisfying for you, you can hold it. And each quarter or each month, you will receive a proportional share of the revenues directly in your wallet in USDC. If you want to get rid of your treasure, that's your right. Then you can go to the secondary market of Bolero, and then you can list your song share, and it's an open market. So each user, each holder is able to list their asset at the price that they want. And to that extent, the market is regulated by the users. This is how it works on Bolero, and this is how we think we will be able to create a global decentralized marketplace for music IP. So I just wanted to share this example. This is the latest drop that we did with Agoya. I don't know if anybody knows Agoya here. Sorry. Agoya is a techno DJ and producer and label owner. He's really famous and really engaged into Web3 because he's been experimenting in this space for a few years now. And in June, we had the chance to collaborate with him, and he became the first producer to actually share 100% ownership of one of his record masters recording on Bolero. So this is what we did with Agoyan, which was actually a record composed and produced for his community. So what we did is pretty simple. We took 100% of the master recording, which is the side A of the music IP. We split it into 2,500 shares, and we simply embedded this music IP into NFTs. People were able to actually claim based on their past activity. They were able to purchase a few shares. And the thing is, the share was at $25. So pretty cool, right? Because it meant that you didn't need to be a whale to actually access this drop. Everybody was welcome and open to it. Once you had your song share, you needed to wait 1 month before the secondary market opened. So this is what we did. And now, people who own these shares, they have two choices. Either they wait for October 5, it will be the first royalty payout date. Either they can trade it on the secondary market. To maybe project you in the future and maybe tell you how we envision things at Bolero, we like to say that in 2028, we think that 25% of music streaming platform subscribers and users will own a stake in the music they play on the daily. And why do we think that? It's because music is actually the best artifact to prove your belonging feeling, to prove your community belonging through the NFTs, but also because you are consuming it on the daily, it's the only way to actually monetize the natural practice that you can have on your daily basis. So this is what we think, and we will be at the forefront to make sure that this future exists. Thank you very much, guys.
If somebody have a questions, please raise your hand and we will give you a microphone.
Hey.
Hey.
I have a question. So You know how you mentioned that like if Bolero goes away, you'll still own your IP share. But I noticed like on one of the slides it says that Bolero collects the royalties on behalf of all the users. So were Bolero to disappear, they would own the token, which represents an ownership of the IP, I guess according to some contract that they also have to sign, like a wrapper contract.
So actually, each song shares has a contract that engage the artist, the producer, and the user. So if Bolero disappears tomorrow and that you still need to collect your royalties,
right?
Eventually it's easier when Bolero is here because we do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
If we disappear, it will be much more difficult.
Okay, so you as a
but
as a,
you
as a
will
holder,
still be entitled to do so. So
right.
you should receive your royalties.
So
the only thing is Bolero does it when you sleep. So
okay, so as a holder, I would have to go directly to the artist and say, hey, I own 5% of that song. I haven't been paid for 6 months.
Legally, you can do so.
Okay, cool.
Legally, you can.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
You know, you mentioned when it comes to valuation, right? You look at prior revenues, right? But like creative output product is not like other ones, right? Like, do you have like over time? Are you developing an underwriting model for this, or do you know where you're able to sort of value?
So your question is related to like with a new record, how do you
value it? Yes.
Yeah. So we have two solutions to do so. Either the artist or the producer has released other records in the past. So we simply look and measure how it went for those records and what were like the trends and the projections. Either the artist and the producer didn't release anything before, and then we look at this specific musical genre and we have industry standards regarding valuation. So we know, for instance, that for an emerging artist who has 6 months of career, who has only released one single, and who has, I don't know, 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, we know that the right valuation range is between X and Y.
Interesting. Okay.
So we know that, but most of the time we have enough data to actually make a real quote, a real valuation for each song.
Okay, interesting. Thanks.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I will use this beautiful ability to ask the question. If some artist is watching us now online, how they can join? If they are just not the producers, just artists who produce who create some musics, and they want to participate in this, what they need to do?
So as an artist, what do you need to do to join Bolero?
Yes.
Yeah.
How for the artist to become, for example, the owner of her own shares of her own music?
Yeah. So basically, everybody is welcome, and we are trying to adapt the song shares to any kind of musical genre. The only thing is we gotta make sure that our users invest in something like that is valuable. So we have a music team internally who basically do the due diligence work and assess the artist. So how do we assess artists? There is nothing like mean in this. It's just about having conversation, look at the data, we measure the success of the artist, and we try to see that if the artist has a potential, if he's going to grow in the near future, and if we see a fit or a potential into the artist, he's definitely welcome to actually sell X% of his records. So the only thing is we do not want to open it up to anybody, because if you as a user or as an investor, you come on Bolero and you invest in a bunch of songs and those songs don't generate anything, you will be disappointed. And then we lose our mission. So at the end, we need to provide you with good records, good songs.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's just more about the business of Bolero itself. Like, what about your revenue model, or do Bolero hold the shares themselves, or?
That's a good question. So we have a pretty basic business model. So we earn a commission on the primary market, which is 25%, 75% for the artist or the producer. Then on the secondary market, we take between 2 and 4% on each trade that we split with the artist. And finally, we also earn 3% of commission on all the royalties that we collect for you. So these are the standards of our business model. But since we have a strong music DNA and we've been in the space for 2.5 years now, we start to actually work on specific projects where we can actually create song shares before the record is finalized. And to that extent, we will be able to sometimes take a little stake in a specific record to, first of all, show our support, show our appreciation, but also to see Bolero grow as a company and as a decentralized platform with, beyond the assets that are traded on the marketplace, the assets that we own. And maybe sometimes we will sell, as a company, our assets on the platform. Like our vision, as mentioned, it's not only about music fans. We think that ultimately, if we succeed at creating such a marketplace and such a liquid, market, ultimately the majors and all the record labels will come on Bolero to buy some assets. So maybe in the near future, you will be dealing song shares with Universal Music. This is a future that can happen. So at the end, if Bolero trades some shares, it will look normal, Any other question, guys? Yeah.
No, only because I've done a lot of thinking on this same problem. I didn't actually build. I built like a prototype, but I never launched. I never went to market with it. But I thought about it a lot. And one thing I thought, do you think there needs to be like a non-profit foundation that is just for tokenizing these IPs, and so that the a company, like a for-profit company like yours, would be more about the guiding the artist through the process, marketing. You could do things like you could give them advances or whatever, functioning more as a partner for taking those shares to market than the tokenizing itself. So then you have this credibly neutral entity that is responsible for collections, like the PROs or any in the trad music industry. They have separate organizations that do the collections, and then you have the for-profit companies as a separate thing. Do you think there could be something like that?
I think we gotta go step by step, and I think that the music industry is a really old industry with, as you mentioned, specific pure players who have a specific task or a specific job. So you cannot actually disrupt everyone tomorrow just because you're tokenizing IP. So here we feel like we are the first layer of innovation. We are the first layer when we, give back power to the creators. And eventually all these pure players will have to adapt to what we are building, or they will be disrupted. But I think that at the end, you cannot have a central authority or central platform who is taking care of each task in the value chain. I think it will be a weak way to innovate in the music industry. But I'd like to imagine that those few players you were talking about at some point will embrace the decentralized model and actually I don't know, maybe open up an office dedicated to this specific task. I don't know. We'll see. The thing is, all we are creating and distributing on Bolero is based on what we call real-life assets. Regarding those new models or the new roles of those pure players in the music industry, we gotta have an eye on what's happening regarding music conception, which is another part of music and Web3, and this is what is doing Sound XYZ and all these platforms. The thing is, what it means to actually play music for free, but creating NFTs attached to it, I don't know if it's if it's the economy of tomorrow, and if it is, it's great. How do we adapt together all the models, So there are a lot of question marks, actually, and I don't know, I'd like to know, but I don't know yet. And I feel like that succeeding in this first layer will be amazing first. All right?
So, friends, if no more questions, thank you very much for this.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.